Hi there. Did you know that you're actually too stupid to think for yourself? Well, don't worry about it. I'm from the UK government, and I'm here to help. Why don't you stop messing around with those alternative media options and alternative points of view? You know, the ones that I don't agree with. You just sit back, relax, and let me decide what media gets to ram what agenda in your face. It's better this way.
That was a slightly paraphrased statement presented to the UK Parliament by Ian Murray, the UK's Minister for Creative Industries, Media and Arts. The full statement is published on the UK's official website in an open consultation called Watch This Space, a strategic direction for UK media. Now, the basic objective of this consultation is this. The UK wants to make their trusted news providers easier to discover on social media and digital platforms. They want to strengthen public service media such as the BBC and other UK broadcasters by giving them preferential promotion on sites like YouTube. Yes, that is as bad as it sounds. What this means is that in the UK, YouTube algorithms and recommendations may be manipulated by law in order to promote the news providers that the government likes over the individual news channels and other types of channels in general. Because of course, nothing says democracy quite like the government controlling the media. So the government saw that legacy type media was getting less attention than alternative online sources, and their conclusion was, we need to bury those sources that we don't like under the sources that we do like. Listen, if people prefer not to get their news from the BBC anymore, you shouldn't just shove the BBC down their throats.
What did he say?
Cut that. So the consultation gives a brief summary paragraph, sort of summing up the movement. Now reading. At its best, our media provides the basis of a cohesive country and a healthy democracy. It has the power to advance shared understandings, shared facts, and shared experiences, which help people trust and understand one another. It is this common ground on which a country is built. Okay, so let me ask you something. Who gets to decide what those shared facts are? Is it the people themselves? Or is it you, the government? If the government dictates which news sources are trustworthy and which ones aren't, then it is in fact the government who is playing the arbiter of truth. However, like so many of our other civic spaces, it is facing fundamental changes, which are putting these benefits at risk. Television is undergoing a profound and rapid transformation, having moved from a system of limited broadcast channels to an environment of content everywhere, where the largest players are global streaming services, video sharing platforms, and social media companies. I mean, this is true. Broadly speaking, people are getting their news from a wide range of online sources. But people are also able to exercise their own power of deduction and reasoning to determine what they believe is true and what is false. And listen, even if people are wrong sometimes, it's still better than relying on the government to tell you what's true and what's false. I mean, just look at history. That's a historically true statement. Reading again, our domestic broadcasters, including our public service media, are fighting to be seen and heard in an increasingly competitive and fragmented market. People are increasingly accessing news online rather than through more regulated spaces like Freeview on their TV sets. You know, maybe those spaces just suck. Did you ever consider that? If the people who you are supposed to be representing don't like your choice in media, then don't try to force it onto them. That's poor representation. Luckily, those British chaps should know exactly what to do in the case of unfair governmental representation. Right? What, do you need a hint? Reading again. This is weakening the ability of trustworthy news providers to reach audiences and shape informed public debate. Whoa, easy there, buddy. I think you just said the quiet part a little bit too loudly. So these trustworthy news providers, whose trustworthiness is determined by you and you alone, needs to be shaping public debate? Well, listen, according to the transitive property of equality, this means that you, the government, are now shaping public debate. This consultation is called a strategic direction for the UK media. Yeah, that's a strategic direction, all right. I think there's another country that employs similar strategies with their media policies. North Korea. If I were a conspiracy theorist, right, I might come to the conclusion that there's some sort of shady backrooms deal going on between the government and those trusted media companies. Like maybe the UK government goes to the BBC and says, hey, if you serve the public the exact opinions and news articles that we want you to, we'll make a law that says you get an advantageous boost on social media. Now, YouTube sent out a statement to some UK creators urging them to speak out against the UK's media proposition. The UK government is running a public consultation called Watch This Space, a new strategic direction for UK media. The proposals include mandatory changes to how content is discovered on YouTube. This could direct audiences away from your channel. As a UK creator, this directly impacts your future. Digital content discovery works best when driven by user choice, not legal requirements. This is a vital window for you to share your perspective before the consultation closes on 31st August 2026. The proposed new rules includes a mandatory prominence regime. Wow, not even trying to hide the ball anymore, huh? This could require digital platforms like YouTube to prioritize and give a privileged position to traditional broadcasters like the BBC, ITV, and Channel 4, and user interface and recommendation feeds, potentially pushing your content out of sight. And some people might be saying, well, that's not really censorship, right? They're not actually taking other people's content down. They're just pushing it down in the algorithm a bit. But anyone who knows anything about how YouTube works, even the slightest disadvantage in the algorithm could absolutely kill your channel. That's just how it works with the algorithm and with the recommendations. Mandating prominence to traditional institutions will impact all other independent digital creators, production companies, and media, including through your content downranked. Pushing this group forward means pushing everyone else downwards. Mandatory prioritization of broadcasters would affect how your content reaches your audience, regardless of what your audience actually wants to see. This last bullet point here speaks volumes to undermining the creator-audience bond. The consultation repeatedly emphasizes trust in the context of legacy broadcasters, implying that digital-first voices are less credible, damaging the foundational trust that sustains the creator economy. And this is true, right? If the UK government has a list of news sources that they deem trustworthy, then that means anyone not on that list is deemed untrustworthy. So good on YouTube for making a statement, even though it's most likely in their own best interest, right? Forced amendments to their algorithm is almost certainly bad for them as a platform. But this is one of those rare occasions where YouTube is on the same side as its creators. And I'm no YouTube guru, right? But as far as I can tell, this UK media movement will probably have negative effects on all YouTubers, not just the ones in the UK. Those channels from around the world with a large amount of UK viewership will ultimately suffer if their content gets forcibly buried in the algorithm. Ultimately, though, YouTube will most likely be forced to kowtow to the UK if the proposition is made into policy. It really is on individuals in the UK to stand up against this bad idea. And that sentiment is true in general anytime you lobby against certain government activities. If you give an inch, they tend to take a mile. Anyway, best of luck. You have until August 31st. Godspeed.